You're listening to the Beer Craft Beer and Brewing Podcast. Tune in every Wednesday night at 6:30 Pacific for a dose of beer and brewing banter with your hosts, Ben Holm and Andrew Ziegler.
So hop aboard for some wit and wisdom in the Pacific Northwest, because it's always beer 30 on
The Beer Craft. Welcome back to the Beer Craft. Hey, folks, sitting out there, you ever look at your stovetop and think, God, I could brew beer right here, right now, with just a little bit of less of, well, everything.
Or maybe you're tired of that 5-gallon batch that's hogging your weekends. You know, hogging your fridge and your relationship.
Today, we're going small, like really, really small. We're taking 1 gallon. We're talking 1 gallon batches here.
1 gallon.
Less gear, less space, fewer tiers, maybe, but still flavor forward, and it's still full send brewing, man.
Yeah, it's your perfect getaway for apartment dwellers, you know, Airbnbers. Gear minimals.
I want to have that problem. I got an Airbnb for a month.
For a month,
yeah.
yeah.
Beer. Yeah.
You know, your condiment phobes and, you know, like just your mad
condiment
scientists.
folks. Yeah.
Condiment phobies.
The
phobies.
Condominium.
Condominium
complexes.
Oh, the commitment phobes. Ooh, we don't want to commit to anything.
Yeah, I like those. Like, you know, like the mustard people probably like beer better than the ketchup people. I'm just gonna say
They might. I like mayo. I'm a mayo man.
Good on price. So, anyways, if you're a mad scientist who likes to tinker, this is the show for you. But before we get to the gear, the recipes, and the glory of brewing in a broom closet,
We've got a full-size thirst to deal with, Ben.
that's right. It's time to crack open a cold one because this is Beer 30. Andrew, how the heck are you?
I'm fucking pissed off like a bug today, buddy.
Oh, man. Shit.
You
Somebody peed in your Cheerios?
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
God, man.
My neighbor peed in my Cheerios again.
Damn them. Don't leave your Cheerios
We've
in
talked
rain,
about
damn
we've
rain.
talked about the famous dog lady, right?
The dog lady. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, it just goes to show me that I don't know. I better pay attention to my mail a little more.
Some people just like to
Yeah. Well, what happened?
throw
was,
their weight around.
Yeah, today I was opening my mail that I hadn't opened in maybe 2 months. You know, some of it doesn't need to be open for 2 months because I have a bi-monthly bill, right? And this happens to be one of those. One of the bills from the city.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, comes every 2 months. I have to pay it every 2 months. It's
Right.
It's for the sewer.
Sewer
It's
shit.
sewer. Every 2 months I pay it. So, yeah, I got another bill that looked just like that. It wasn't that. I was like, whoa, what is this? And it's an infraction from the city. They sent me it in the mail in an envelope that looks like my sewer bill that comes every 2 months.
Right.
So that's not very cool of them, for one. And now I'm late on my 30-day because I just put my bill over there in my bill place. I know when I'm paying my bill every couple months. Boom, it's like 30 days past. It's 30 days had already passed. I missed it by 5 days. So now I'm sitting here like, I have to go to the city. I have to go in front of a commissioner, explain to them, and hopefully they understand my side of the world here, because you know how unfair this is to me that, you know, my neighbor calls the cops on me and they send me a ticket in the mail. An officer doesn't even come to my door and present that to me and give me a chance to say, what did you see this? You know, what
Where's
was the infraction?
investigation?
Yeah, how do you know this happened? You're just taking the word of somebody and you send me a ticket in the mail. And I've already been through this once. I already been through it. And now they're saying it's my second infraction, where the first one got dismissed because it was not right. So there was never an infraction. There was never an offense. There was an infraction, but never an offense because I got over it.
the decision
I
and-
appealed
yeah.
it, and the commissioner said, "You're absolutely correct, Mr. Ziegler. We cannot prosecute with video evidence sent in by your neighbor. That's it,
Right.
dude." And now they've done it to me again. They're wasting my time, wasting city's time. You know, now I have to go in there and explain to them, hey, you know, your infraction looks like your sewer bill, and my sewer bill is only done, you know, every 2 months, so now I'm late. Please understand that.
Right.
You know, and please understand that, no, I did not commit this offense, and there's no evidence against me other than a video that my neighbor may have sent in, and you can't accept video evidence. Oh, sorry. Beer calls. I haven't even had a fucking... I'm fucking pissed off like a bee, aren't
drink
I?
the beer. Feel better, man. Jeez.
It feels better talking about it. Thank you all for listening to my to Therapy 101 on
Right.
Beer 30.
Well,
Beer Therapy.
That's why we
Beer
got beer.
30
That's why
therapy.
we got beer. We got cold,
That's right.
crushable. Today we got the Chuckanut Brewing's Mexican style lager. I don't know if we've had this on the show.
We have.
Okay. I just have to drink. I
No,
just saw
have
it
we?
and I had to drink it again. It's
We've had many Chuckanuts on the show.
I remember I had this one 2 years year and a half ago or so the
Yep.
first time, and
Yeah.
it disappeared. The whole can disappeared in about
Gone.
3 gulps. I'm like, well,
Gone.
that's fucking good. Give me a diving board, man. I'm head
right.
first.
So our
So Mexican lager.
our guest
Yeah.
from 2 weeks ago, right?
That was Alex.
Alex,
2
Alex.
weeks ago from Farmstrong.
From Farmstrong.
yeah.
Farmstrong, I believe, was the first in the valley to make a Mexican
Oh, they're La
lager.
Raza.
The
That
La
is-
Raza.
I almost bought that too, and I'm like, boy, is Chuckanut here? And I looked around the corner, and there it is. I'm like, I'm gonna get that one.
Yeah.
La Raza's good too.
La Raza's good.
I remember talking to Mike Armstrong, who, former brewer there, developed that recipe. The La Raza says you gotta have lime and salt, man. That's the way to drink that. And he was right. I've had it both ways. And
Both ways.
A little
Really
pinch
good.
of salt,
Tiny
with a
pinch.
lime in
Yeah.
there. It is much better.
It makes it the Mexican lager now.
Right, and it's not
something
it's
something
not
special.
It's not a Corona style like this fucking beer needs lime.
Skunky.
Yeah, it's not a
Yeah.
skunky beer that has to have a lime.
No, it
just
is
to
a
get
solid. It's a
It's a
solid.
solid drinking
It's a
beer.
solid lager. Definitely.
But it tastes better
solid.
with lime. Just
Right.
happens to taste
Right.
better with lime.
Well, that's the
and
deal.
then it's part of the
That's
look
the deal.
and
The
feel.
Mexican
Yeah,
lager
yeah.
should be taken with.
Yeah.
I
Lime.
don't usually put much salt in mine, but definitely
Just
limes.
a little we're not trying to be so salty you can taste it. Just a little. Salt's one of those things.
It's
It
not
just
a-
makes
it's not a
things
goose.
taste. It just makes food taste more like the food that you're eating.
Ah, now
right?
you're talking.
It makes steak
enhancement.
taste like better steak.
Yum.
Yeah.
That's the salt.
That's a little salt. So
and the acidic acids.
and
They
lime,
help.
fuck, lime is good. Jeez.
Flavor enhancement.
Yeah.
It enhances everything.
Yeah.
So good.
Turn it up. Turn the volume up. So I like that. I would throw some lime at this beer. Would not be afraid. I don't have any. with
So
me
no matter
today,
what lager I made in Mexico, it was a Mexican lager.
but geographically speaking, right? Like, it's all the same to a clam, man. turns out, beer doesn't care about a lot of these things. Yeast don't give a fucking rat's ass. We
What
get
you
really
call it.
obsessive about certain things because we're human, but beer doesn't care. It's just beer, man.
It does its thing.
I like this beer. It's perfect for today.
Pretty light.
It is hot today.
It's hot.
It was cold this morning. I got up and drove to Brewing, which I was like, oh, that's like Seattle. No, it's like fucking Tacoma. It's
yeah.
like- it's even farther. I had to get up down there at 9:30 this morning and pick up some gear. Yeah.
You had to go through traffic.
Going down there wasn't terrible.
It wasn't?
Like the normal downtown horse shit. And there was one little slowdown. I don't
Everett
remember
was
where the fuck
fine?
it was. Everett was okay. Yeah.
What time did you leave? 7?
I left like 7:35 or
Oh,
something.
yeah,
like
okay,
that.
yeah.
Southbound was fine.
Yeah. Southbound's fine until you get to Linwood.
Northbound, yeah, northbound I hit the same Soto, from the airport kind of all the way to downtown. Northbound it's always fucked.
Yep.
So it's pretty much you hit that fuckery.
But then after 9:30, you coming back. You're on your
it was,
return
it
around.
was
it's-
fine.
Yeah, nice.
Past that it was fine. Except
Did
I
you
had
stop at a brewery down there?
Well, technically, I stopped at a brewery in there. So I stopped today at Four Barking Dogs Brewery in Burien. John has a little nano brewery down there.
Okay.
He's open on Wednesdays. Does axe throwing and
Dude, that sounds fun.
Yeah, and he's got axe throwing alley. And he's got cribbage nights with a local
Cool.
club on Wednesdays.
He's only open on Wednesday, though.
That's what my understanding was.
So far. So far.
FourBarkingDogsBrewery.com.
Check
got
it
to
out.
have a couple of beers. He shared with me his smoked Helles with it was a cherry smoked Helles. and
Oh.
It was about 50%. The grain bill was for 10 gallons was about 50% cherry smoked malt, and I was surprised. It was smoky. It was like hello smoke, but it didn't beat you over the head.
Right.
There was no mallet involved in that. And
Now,
was
how was the smoke level? Still diastatic?
it was still fine.
Still diastatic malt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of smoked over, well, the old days they would dry the grains
Well, yeah,
after
during the
malting,
kilning and all that,
that kiln process.
It
you just
probably
blow the smoke over
a lot of beers in old days were smoky.
Oh, they were all. I mean, I think before Wheeler's Coke roasting maltsters. So much of that was wood fired.
Yeah.
And it would have been dark, and there would have been tones of smoke. Or,
I'm sure you get
smoked
you
malt
get your
comes from-
maltsters that'll do it right and all that. Yeah. Oh, here's my lightest.
Right. So it was really good. It was surprisingly delicious. I mean, like, and I'm not saying, John, if you're listening, we're not saying I'm surprised your beer's good. No, I'm saying the smoke level being the amount of smoke malt went in there, and it didn't overpower. It was delicately balanced, really good. The like sweet little cherry notes from the sweetness of the malt played with the cherry note. Yeah, it's fucking good.
Nice. Who make them all?
I don't recall that. I would then because I was quickly given another one, his Pilsner Urquell, and did we enjoyed that one. We were talking, showed me the brewery, and pulled out of storage a year old sour that he had. He's like, I don't get to share this one much.
Bottle?
Not much of it left. The last bit out of the keg. And so I was fortunate to have that one, and it was like a 12%. It was really good. The sour level was like, man, that's really well balanced. I get the oak notes or the fruity notes, and the sour was just like hello and goodbye again. And it was like, it's like you're nailing the pH on that one. And he told me a story, and I thought I'd share it today. It says how you evaluate sourness, and they do this in wineries apparently. Is what you would do is you would cleanse your palate, and you would bend over at 90 degrees at the waist, and your salivary glands, you notice how much saliva is coming out of your glands into your mouth if you're standing bent over at the waist 90 degrees. And so that's your
after you take a sip.
This is just your baseline before you
so
take
anything.
Okay.
So you're going to cleanse your mouth, nothing to drink,
right.
Bend over.
90 degrees.
Got it.
And note how much saliva you are producing. I was like, that's really, and so we try it, and I'm standing there now in the basement of John's house.
Bent over?
Yeah, I'm like, this is getting weird. I just met you. No, I've known him for a bit, but like, it's still weird.
You just wanted to see my butt, didn't you?
Yeah, it's like, are you looking at my butt? So he said, okay, now take a sip of the beer and repeat the end and bend over again. And notice
with the sip in there.
After you swallow. And then,
okay.
And so as you do it the second time, there's kind of a new flood of saliva because you have this new acidity. And apparently if it's a very, very, very acidic drink, like you will almost start drooling because the amount of saliva coming out of your mouth.
Okay.
Like you will have a puddle.
High acidity
equals more saliva. And so that's kind of like, and so now I want to try that with some really, really acidic beers. And look buffoonish standing.
Maybe we should do
so stand in a brewery bent over.
Sour episode soon.
If you see me doing that, it's not advertising. It's just checking.
Checking for sourness. I wonder whoever figured that out.
I don't know.
You just stand this way.
So that was the story. It really happened this afternoon. I have not looked it up. I haven't had to see if has anybody written any science on this? But
evidently you performed the science.
He witnessed it in action at a winery, and everybody's standing around and like in the barrel room tasting these wines, and they're bending over. He's like, "What is this? Like a Japanese bowing thing? Like homage to the wine or something like that?" No,
and they spit it out too. Like,
well, I mean, if you have to drink and sample and evaluate a bunch of wine,
you want to spit it out.
Yeah. I mean, because I've done tastings where I lose
go to
objectivity.
A couple flights and you're done.
Yeah,
I mean, your palate's wrapped.
You ever go on like a winery tour in like Napa or Santa Barbara County or Solvang or
beer tours,
even up here in Washington in
pretty soon it's gone. Walla Walla?
No, the other one.
Oh, St. Michel.
Woodinville. Yeah, Woodinville's got a lot of wine. Wineries down there too. If you just do too many tours, you will buy the membership and cases of wine at the last stop or the last 2 or 3 stops of the day. Like, you have lost your objectivity. They all taste amazing, and like that has to come home with me. And don't you think we should get the membership, honey? And that's what happened.
I'm the last rating.
I remember I took my wife to meet my dad in California. We did winery tours. We drove down, would not use the air conditioning because it was, it's costly. It uses more gas to get down there. And we were on a, we were younger. We had a budget. On the way home, we threw the budget out the window because we already did that at the winery because I had like 4 cases of wine in the back seat, and I didn't want to get these things to get thermal shock, so I rode the AC all the way home. She was mad. Not because I spent all the money on the winery. I mean, half of that wine is hers. But because
the air
you
conditioning.
give a fuck about the wine more than me.
$3 of gas.
Yeah, right. Yep. I'm still paying for that one.
You will pay for the rest of your life because she will never let it down.
Sir.
Oh, that's how they are, That's how wives are.
Right.
It's deserving, and and we deserve. There is probably something in there that we need to connect with.
Yeah,
they always need to remind us of that thing.
My wife's
we always remember we're getting hammered.
My wife's a redhead, and in all the ways that you hear about the anger,
it's for real.
The fire is a real thing, and sometimes I just like to poke the bear. Just
don't
like
do that,
just
man.
To it's like counting coup on a bear, like just to see if he rips
Dude,
your fucking head off.
She's
like, I
Viking.
survived.
She's
again,
Viking too.
Like yeah. Like if I survive this, it'll be good. But what a way to die if I don't. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Now you're thinking like a warrior. That's what marriage is.
That's right. Oh man, good beer today. Cheers.
Good beer. Cheers. Man.
I think we take a little break for another one.
Yeah, we're gonna take a break here.
We start off today's segment on 1 Gallon Brewing.
Yep.
All the gear,
Talking small today.
all the beer without the garage. How about that?
I love it. Stay right here. We will be right back.
Somewhere in Skagit Valley, beer is vanishing. H&M, it's true. Beers are disappearing from fridges and pints faster than we can track. Local brewers are making beer so fresh and flavorful. And Northwest Brewer Supply? The source of the phenomenon. They supply the tools, ingredients, and knowledge to create brews that defy logic and gravity.
The truth is out there, and it's at Northwest Brewer Supply. Visit nwbrewers.com.
Welcome back to the Beer Craft. We are talking small batch brewing, like 1 gallon batch sizes. It's kind of a unique opportunity. Some people, and I hear, as a shop owner, if I'm out in the street talking to people about, what it is I do and how I teach people about making their own beer, I get a lot of, gosh, I'd love to, but I live in an apartment and I don't have that kind of space. Or I have roommates. It's a shared house, so I can't hog up,
Can't hog up the fridge
spaces and refrigeration or that much beer at a time. Or maybe I just don't drink it that fast. 5 gallons of beer, that's gonna be about 52.
Yeah, but I want
bottles.
my beer.
Yeah,
I might not drink that much, but I want to drink my beer.
Want my beer. I want to know what's on how it ticks. I want to peek all the way under the hood of beer and get a solid education, 1 pint at a time. So I still want to make it myself.
Well, I make very different beer from everybody else.
Absolutely.
I love my recipes.
Yeah, they're your kids.
I make them for me.
Yeah, I brew what I like.
I brew what I like.
So one of the benefits of these 1 gallon kits is you can make this. You can still make beer. And you don't have to have a dedicated space. You don't have to have a garage dominating architecture.
Don't have to have a dedicated brew kettle.
It's pretty easy. The gear list on it is very attractive.
Yeah, you better have a dedicated fermenter, but
And we're going to talk about it. So the basics
it's
for
about
the
the
gear.
biggest thing you're going to need.
Your kettle. We mentioned that a second ago. A 2 to 3 gallon stock pot is all you need. If you have something like 5 gallons.
I have a big old pasta pot or a big old crab boil.
I love the pasta pot, especially for like an all grain. Even if I'm doing like a brew in a bag all grain process, that pasta insert really makes the lautering phase.
Yes, see, it's big.
Easy.
And then you put your bag in there, boom, and then you tie your bag, and then you're not pulling your bag, you're pulling that
the insert. Yeah. Put a couple spoons over there, and it'll drain back into the kettle. It's kind of a slick. That's the way I like to do an all grain. An all grain setup is in my pasta pot, right on the stovetop.
Right.
It'll
Pot.
hold 3 pounds of grain
Yep.
or whatever, and
Bring the grain.
Go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pull the grain out.
You
add a
can-
little bit more water.
You can do extract on the stovetop. Just it's a smaller version. So
Huh.
same kind of small kettles.
You know,
whatever you had. If you
extract
only had
is
a
probably
2-gallon.
extract is probably easier.
Extract is taking it takes you halfway there.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Already
doing
got the sugars.
doing a small batch of extract is gonna get you right there. The same as maybe if you're gonna do a small batch of your mash.
Yeah.
And all that. I mean,
Yeah, you've got maybe a pound of extract for a gallon batch. It's fairly typical. A little bit, if you want to tweak the ABV, just add a little more extract. That
Right.
the dry malt extract stores a little easier than liquid stuff for your next. If you buy in a little bit larger quantities, there's definite price considerations. But you're big,
Right.
but your kettle is.
we're
easy.
making a smaller batch, and then doing that with extract. Now we're able to adjust our ABV even higher, because we can't get that much grain in there.
Right. It's an easy way we can kind of we get to fudge it either way we
Yeah.
want to go. Yeah.
So instead of like a 5% beer, 6% beer, I mean, we can actually make a 8-9% beer with a 1-gallon batch.
Yeah. Very good stuff. Let's see. Next up on the list, you're going to need something to ferment that in. Gallon glass jugs, your big wine jug. Those are
Yep.
okay. I do think a 2-gallon fermenter bucket though is
Probably the way to
ideal.
go.
Yeah, that's my fave.
You need definitely more than 1 gallon worth. If you're gonna make 1 gallon of beer, you need 1.5 gallons because you need a half-gallon headspace.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Can't really get a gallon and a half bucket.
Yeah, if it's too small, you can clog your airlock. Now you've got an unregistered pressure vessel that
Yeah.
is doomed to failure, as
Can
they
blow
all do.
like mine blew in my closet.
Yeah.
We'll talk about brewing closets pretty soon.
Yeah. You're still
yeah.
gonna need that airlock and stopper. Same sort of stuff. We're
Still need a thermometer
Yeah.
and a hey, if you want a hydrometer, Or if you got a
you should definitely have a hydrometer.
refractometer.
I don't know how this ended up not on there. Hydrometer is. I don't think that is optional. It's the only thing that speaks beer. It's
Yep.
the only thing that speaks yeast.
It's the only
is a
thing that tells
hydrometer.
you your levels, so you know what's going on.
Yeah. I try to tell people all the time, like your airlock, they call me up, they ask, what's going on with my beer? What's wrong with it? I said, what does your hydrometer say? It's the first question I always ask. And the usual result is, I don't know, I didn't use it. I'm like, okay, go back and use it. It was like, and tell me what it is. Well, I just waited till the bubbles stopped. Well, the bubbles will stop for 4 reasons, and only one of them's good.
You're right.
And the hydrometer is the one to find out which one it is. So it's
Hydrometer is the only way that we tell if there's sugar.
That's right. Yeah, because if your yeast stopped working midway through because it got cold or malnourished or too hot even, and otherwise cranky, you
just
won't know what's
just
going
lag.
on. Yeah, they
Yeah.
just stop. Malnourished, they might just be slow.
Right.
But you won't know that they're done.
Right.
You run the risk of packaging it prematurely, an unfinished beer that will finish up at some point. That's how Uncle Willie's bottle bombs blew up at 3 a.m.
It will
Yeah.
finish someday. Kabam. And if you bottle it with that much sugar in it, oh my God. Yeah. So-
Auto siphons are fun. They make it really easy. Nice.
The
and
auto
sanitized.
siphon is the best.
They make those in little sizes too. So
You don't really
they-
need a
they-
little size.
The big one, if you have a
it'll
big
work.
one and you're converting to a 1 gallon batch for an afternoon, your big one's going to work just fine. If all you ever want to do is 1 gallon and they make them small that fit in, make the kit a little bit smaller, fit into a box
Yep.
pretty easily.
Yep.
Hoses.
Bottling wand.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, bottling wands or hose clamps.
Gonna
both
do
of
that.
these, they're going to be
You're always going to need it.
they're
So it's
gonna-
going to be in your repertoire.
It's an
you know,
anti-dribble
It's in your
device,
cabinet.
right?
Yeah.
I don't like to fill bottles through a funnel.
No,
that's
because that introduces oxygen like mad, and you will soon lose your beer.
cardboard flavored beer is not a thing. Thank God.
Bottling one is what I started out with,
Yeah.
and
Still my best friend.
still cool. I mean,
Yeah.
just as good as a beer gun.
There's a nice little
Pretty good.
tech to
Yeah.
a bottling one.
'Cause
Fits
got that-
right into that. It fits
Yep.
so perfectly into a Cobra head faucet, little
Yep.
plastic picnic faucet.
Yep.
And you can bottle a beer, straight from the keg.
Bam.
Really easy without losing
Right.
too much CO2. That's pretty slick.
Love
Back to the gear and necessary gear. Cleaners and sanitizers. We still have the same job to do. Clean it,
Right.
sanitize it.
Always
That's
have
step
your
number 1 and
cleaners.
step number 2.
Sanitizing.
Yeah.
It's important.
Bottles and caps. Now, we're doing small batch. Maybe those flip tops start
Right.
to look a little more appealing if we
Right.
only, we only
Doing
need
4,
8 of
5, or
them.
6.
Yeah. A case of those leaves me some leftovers, and I don't need a capper for those if I'm just doing 1 gallon.
Sanitizing
Yep.
and the Grolsch bottles are
Yeah, those rubber gas,
amazing.
those will hold a good seal. Now you do have
Yep.
to periodically check those and make sure that they're not cracked or warped or
right.
creased or
Your
worn
gasket.
out.
Yeah. your
Rubber
gasket.
gets when rubber goes bad. It's called vulcanizing.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool name for it. I want to vulcanize, live long and prosper. No, check them when rubber goes bad. It gets stiff and inflexible and
Yep.
brittle, so it'll crack and
No
has
more
has
moisture.
no more fun to it.
No more moisture in there.
But yeah, the flip tops, they don't you don't need a bottle capper. If you're just doing Pry-Off bottles, you're gonna
Easy
need a capper
enough.
too. That's easy.
No big deal. You're
Yeah.
gonna save your bottles.
A couple little bonuses you might have in the kitchen. A scale. If you're a baker already, you might already have a food scale. I like the digital ones. I can switch between grams and ounces.
Yep.
And I can
I
also
already have one of those. 'cause
Yeah, I can
I
use
use
the
it for my-
tare function. Does yours
Yeah.
have a tare function on it?
Uh-huh.
This is this is the best one. You can put a bowl on there
put
and
your
hit
bowl.
the tare button and,
And then add your
says
hops.
0.
Or
so
your,
now you're
or your
yeah, it's
or the
automatically deducting the weight of the bowl. So you add say your next addition says an ounce. That you bring
Boom.
out 1
Easy
ounce. and
enough.
It's done. No math required. You don't have to deduct the weight of the bowl like so many manual or analog scales would have you do.
Right. The Wine Thief is another good one. You know what I had? I had the stainless steel turkey baster.
Oh yeah,
And that thing was like 18 inches long.
it's a
It was long.
It's
Yeah.
a big boy.
Loved it. I use
turkey-
that like crazy.
Turkey basters are fine. Sometimes they can drop a little bit more liquid than a Wine Thief. However,
They do.
we got to keep on it. That's another one we have to do a visual inspection inside that bulb.
Right.
Because I've
You
seen
just
some
need to
turkey.
clean. No, you need to clean it every time.
Yeah, I've come across some. I've
You'd
come
never
across some
not
turkey
clean it.
basters in a kit and popped
Gross.
that bulb off. And it was
Oh my gosh,
fantastic.
They come apart.
I know.
Easily. They almost like come apart when you don't want them to come apart.
There's
but,
a little bit of that.
Yeah, but remember, you can use that stainless steel turkey baster if it's sanitized to do your yeast washing too.
Yeah.
So it's dual
slick.
purpose here.
Little mesh bags are kind of fun on that list. If you're, an 8
Mesh
by 15,
bags are great.
8 by 15 is going to be good for
You know where
2
you know
3
where
pounds of grains.
I'm sorry, but I have to say, I have to give a little hint here. Where I buy my mesh bags is the produce department at my local grocery store. On the end cap, there's synthetic bags that are perfect for hops.
So I look at, I get down and I look at the weave on there. There's some fine nylon.
Yeah,
some
there are.
fine nylon that's food grade, easy stuff. But you got to look at the weave. You want something pretty fine.
Pretty fine,
I mean,
yeah.
you can still visibly see through it. Is going to be adequate.
Well, it depends.
But-
Now, if you're going to be using pelletized hops
Mm-hmm.
will definitely get through the larger weave. A lot of times
That's why you want a really small weave. Yeah.
a lot of times the flower hops won't, just fine.
If you can find leaf hops, right? Most.
Oh.
Yeah. So the industry is kind of.
Are we changing now?
Well, here's what happened. About, I'd say 6 years ago now, 6 or more, beer consumption kind of leveled off. So the growth rate that, microbreweries were experiencing, or microbrewery, I'm saying how old I am by saying microbrewery, but craft brewing, the growth rate had kind of stalled out. Consumption had been rather flat. But the producers, the hop growers, they kept turning on more fields.
Right.
Cultivate more fields, and it takes.
You have to grow.
It takes about, a new planting of of
3
an
years.
existing variety is a 3 year
3 years,
three-year
yeah.
hitch before you're up to production.
Right.
Spec.
You get that plant to grow up 16 feet.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
that's
they're kind of
a
like,
ways.
is this a fluke? Is it so they kept producing more fields? So we have this glut of hops. Well, consumption and production requirements didn't really move for a bit. So the growers faced a situation. If they're not able to sell it, they're not on contract to sell
we have
this
to
new
we have
production.
to store it under
Ideal conditions.
under freezing.
Yeah.
You have to freeze it.
The storage requirements for just in the packaging alone
I can
of leaf
imagine.
hops. Yeah, like
My
1 ounce
word.
of leaf hop is that bag is like 6 by 10. Or 6 by 8 inch kind
No,
of
a
sizes.
pound? A pound?
1 ounce looks like this in a packaged leaf hop.
Oh, yeah, but
it's
thin.
the same bag.
But-
Yeah,
but thin, yeah.
But it's the same size bag for a pound. They can compress that into bales, but then your bale, that might only be
Right.
the storage space requirements for leaf are obscene compared to pellet.
It's probably
Yeah.
1/8
So
of the volume.
So the industry says, okay, if you're on contract to buy leaf, you can have leaf. Everything else that's not
Is
on
going to
contract
pellet?
is getting pelletized.
Yeah. That makes
just to
sense.
store it, yeah.
That makes sense.
Most breweries have been using pellets.
Oh, yeah, forever.
period,
Well, that's better for
a
their
long time.
systems. Yeah, the
It's
home brewers were the ones
slightly
using.
more impactful in terms of IBU by weight,
Yep.
impact by weight in pelletization. There is, we're talking about bagging hop. We all got started on bagging hops. There's a bit of research that says, putting it in a bag actually slows, turns the volume down.
It
on
does.
utilization
It does
and
because
stuff.
it oxidizes slowly and everything.
Yeah,
I remember. I remember
there's some
Larry's homebrew stop.
Yeah,
in
they
Kent.
require some movement through your work.
The homebrew place. They had the. This is 10, 15 years ago. They had a hop room. I mean, that's all that was in there is just hop room. It wasn't cold room. It was where they took the bales and they separated it into 1 ounce bags for the refrigerators out front.
Yeah.
They did all that.
Oh, I remember doing that when I started at the brew shop.
Yeah.
We were doing. I would break down pellet hops. I would spend. Got my first
Vacuum packing it.
My first schedule was 24 hours a week at the brew shop, and I spent most of that bagging hops. Just smelling hops all day.
I love it.
Yeah,
Come home.
it was easy.
You just smell your fingers. They just smell like resin.
The only one I didn't like was Columbus. Opening a pound of Columbus.
You don't like Columbus at all.
It comes from this. Like it's like received trauma of Columbus.
Ugh.
Just a pound
The
of it in
cheese,
your
that
face.
cheese.
Cheesy, garlicky, gasoline-y asshole.
I love that.
Yeah.
I like Columbus.
That's not my fan. I've had good beers with it. But
Cheesy diesel asshole.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. All right, back to gear before we get lost.
Gear benefits.
Again.
It's cheaper to start, I guess.
Yeah. I think under $75.
Yep.
For
Because you're not buying the bigger gear.
No.
You're not buying the big carb, the
it's the
carboy
most-
or the bucket.
If you already have a kettle, which
If you already have a
your
pasta
your
bucket
big
or a pasta
pasta
pan.
pot or your big stock
Yep.
pot, those will do just fine.
Right.
I got started in 5 gallons brewing on what I had. I used a 5-gallon enamel water bath canning pot.
Like a camping, camping
the blue
pot. Yeah.
speckled
Yep.
enamel. That was my first brew kettle.
Right.
Until it chipped.
I
Because
used
then
one.
Because then it rusted.
Yeah, the porcelain.
chip. Yeah, the
Porcelain chips right out.
Yeah.
Bam.
Eventually.
Now you're done.
But if you don't have that, use that, man. It's easy. You don't need a propane burner. You can do this right on your stovetop, gas or electric cooktop. At that 2 gallons will
Like
burn
mine-
just fine.
My,
Yeah.
to be honest, I have a glass cooktop on my stove.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of sucks for really getting something really boiling.
What is the BTU range on a
I
I
don't-
don't even know.
There's probably no BTU range.
I know gas.
I don't know what the induction rate is.
Yeah, I don't.
but-
I've not used one from a weekend.
It's just it just doesn't.
Airbnb. I used.
Yeah.
one. It was okay, but
It
I was trying to-
fluctuates.
yeah.
It
Wasn't trying to
fluctuates
ruin
in
it,
and
but-
out. It
Mhm.
fluctuates in and out based on light and where your pan is or all that.
physics, man, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But residential cooktops usually gas power.
You'll figure it out.
Gas ones are the strongest,
Yeah,
BTU wise.
And the easiest to control.
Yeah. But they max out at 20,000 BTUs in a residential.
Right. You need about
environment.
32?
You need more.
40?
Your turkey fryer kind of burner, that's a 60 to 80,000
Okay.
BTU.
Yeah.
The bigger
that's
10-inch
like
wagon
five-
wheels.
yeah,
are
5
100,000
gallons.
Yeah.
But-
For a 5-gallon batch, you're
right.
doing, yeah.
But for a
Yeah.
1 gallon batch, you're fine.
For 1 gallon, you're fine at 20,000 BTUs
Yep.
or 10,000 BTUs on electric or something or whatever
Your
you're
electric,
rated at.
your electric glass top, stove top might not
Might be 1600.
Might not do the best.
Yeah, might it kind of tells me like 1600 watts might
took-
be
it
the
took-
maximum.
It took a long time for me.
Although those are
boil
electric
some crabs
cooktops are
once.
going to be running 230 volts, so
yeah.
it's a bigger
No, I
water,
don't.
bigger cube.
Yeah, I don't think mine's 220. Maybe it is.
Probably is.
It probably
is. I would hope so. You'd be otherwise way too. It's
Yeah,
stupid
you're
cheap.
right.
Yeah.
I'm no electrician. And I'm dyslexic.
So we're doing little batches. That stuff's going to cool off in your kitchen sink again, so we don't need big chillers or
Right.
anything like that.
right in the ice bath.
Yeah.
Just
Cool.
cover it.
You
Just
gotta
cover
take it
the.
from a boil.
Yep.
Put a lid on it.
Put the lid on it.
into Icy water. It'll cool fast.
Icy water.
Yeah. So, we talked about doing all grain. You're usually about 2 to 3 pounds of grain. All the hops. Hops. We're going to talk about that in our, in a little brewing math segment coming up about as far as scaling things. But your hops and your yeast, those prices are going to go down as well. We're not buying as much, much product. Maybe a pound and a half of extract, 2 to 3 pounds of grain. Hops might only have an ounce for 5 gallon. If you're buying multiple varieties, well, you might have some leftovers for the next batch. That's okay. That's okay. We want to make more beer, right?
Always.
Right? Okay.
Always.
Good. Glad we covered that.
Dang.
Of
Of course. I mean, what other answer would there be?
Right? Exactly. You're listening to this show.
Right.
You know the answers. I do too. I tell you what, I kind of miss brewing in the kitchen.
Do you?
Yeah. It's just, it's comfortable, it's cozy, it's not windy.
Dude, every time I brewed in the kitchen, I made a mess, and it was so hard to clean up. It was really hard to clean up.
Wort's pretty damn sticky.
Boil over.
Yeah.
Everybody remember, boil overs happen, and just go slow. Be careful.
Yeah.
You can watch it. You have to babysit your boil.
Right.
I mean,
a watched
and it-
kettle never boils over. Dad said,
and it
said no one, yeah.
It happens like in an instant. You have to realize, okay, the foam starts. You'll see the foam go.
Yeah.
And then as soon as that foam gets like an 1/8 inch on, you have to stop it because you don't have time for the wort to cool down.
I will keep one hand on the fire control for my burner.
Yeah.
And the other hand
On a spoon?
A spray bottle.
The spray bottle's good.
H2O,
Yeah.
plain old water in a spray bottle on the mist setting. You can
Yeah.
spray that foam as it's rising, and that'll pop some bubbles. Really, change
It does a
surface
pretty good
temperature.
job.
It's pretty
Yeah.
good, but there's
stirred-
definitely
a stirred-
days,
yeah.
definitely days where
Yeah.
there's
It
some
just-
beers
yep.
that just won't work.
Boom. It just gets too hot
just,
too fast.
Just turn the heat off.
Yeah.
Just kill the heat. It'll calm its ass down.
And once it does that, then you can heat it up again, and it shouldn't boil over. And I've seen it do it a couple times.
I've had
but-
it happen twice.
Yeah.
Once when it hits the boil, and then on a hop edition.
second time.
One of the hop editions, really got excited set of proteins in there.
Yeah, you probably had a lot of oxygen in there.
I'm not sure.
Like, what's that reaction called? Remember, we've talked about it a couple different times.
Which
Uh,
one?
the when the oxygen, when it hits the oxygen and the oxygen expands and it
Oh
erupts.
yeah, it could act like a sublimation. site.
Sublimation
Yeah,
site,
it's like
yes.
so when it goes sublime, which is a cool way of
Right.
describing that.
Sublime, my second
Yeah,
sublime
goes
boil
Goes
over.
from solid to gas rapidly, or phase change.
So
Anyways,
sublime.
pretty good stuff. So yeah, I miss the kitchen, especially wintertime.
Well-
My garage is unheated. It is uninsulated. It is cold all the time.
And I brewed my first 5 gallons, and then I cleaned it off the ceiling.
Oh yeah. Stopper clock, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
It's almost like what do? You when you're using your spaghetti pot to make spaghetti, you're purposely taking a little noodle and see if it sticks to the ceiling. If it's done,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I use the refrigerator.
kind of the
'cause
same thing.
If it was done, it stayed there, right?
Yeah. Hey, Andrew,
You got
what's
some-
that texture on your
Yeah.
kitchen
It's
ceiling?
fucking special. It's custom. It's custom.
Custom pasta.
All right, so we got our stovetop set up. We're hitting the kettle. We're filling up the fermenter.
Yep.
And now what are we gonna do with it?
Small space fermentation.
All right.
Right,
So
if we brewed in a small space, we need to ferment in a small space.
yeah,
This is possible.
you could leave it in the kitchen if you don't if you don't have
could.
if you got a coolish house.
Well, let's talk about strategies for this. The kitchen, bathroom, closet, a cupboard under the sink, possibly.
yeah, The point is, you still want a temperature stable environment. Now, in the small space, that may be easier for you to find.
With the smaller volume, you're not going to have that the heat reaction from the fermentation.
The
like
north
you have
end of the house is cooler, and the closet on the north end is
even cooler,
even cooler than that.
And the bathroom, the spare bathroom.
If you have
under
a
the
spare,
sink.
I wish I had a spare bathroom right now.
I
don't know.
Oh, you just lost your spare bathroom.
Well, no, we only have one bathroom, but there's only 3 of us. Now there's 6 of us in one bathroom.
So you don't even have a bathroom anymore.
No, I don't.
You need to move in?
Not yet, but it's only been 2 days. So we're talking about temperature control. It's still a thing.
Right.
For
How do
small
we
batch
manage
guys.
temperature control in tight places?
Well, with our small fermenter, like a 2-gallon bucket is, a cubic foot.
Right.
It's not very big.
Right. So we can get like a little tray. We set it in.
Set it in a tray or a box with next to it a jug of frozen, jug of ice.
Yep.
That airspace will stay cooler than
A little
ambient.
towel over the top of it.
Something. It's pretty easy. We talked about 2 weeks ago the summer brewing episode. So check that one out. There's a lot of good tips that are applicable for small batches as well.
Just scale it down a little bit.
But it's just going to be a little bit easier.
Yeah, like
with a
the
small batch.
Yep, like the aeration, of the pseudo swamp cooler from the towel and the
little
fan.
swamp cooler. Well, sinking it in water and wrapping it in a cotton towel is going to work just as well at 1 gallon.
Right.
But if you don't even do that, just an ice pack from the refreezable ice pack right out of the freezer in a confined space will cool.
Yep.
Which at 1 gallon is amazing. You might if you don't want to do all that and go through it, you might just move it around the house to the coolest spot. Like if it's cooler over here in the daytime, but then at night it cools off down in
Too much. Yeah.
too much or something, you can move it around.
Easy enough for
and it's only a gallon. It only
couple
weighs
gallons. Yeah.
8 pounds plus the container. That's not much.
Right, 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Protected from light.
Yep.
And vibration.
Yeah.
You don't want it next to like your dryer.
Or maybe your house is too cold. Or
Maybe you want it by your
and
dryer.
You want some heat. Just wrapping the whole thing in a big blanket, putting lots of insulation will warm things up.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It'll go warm even when it's fermenting. It'll get warmer.
It's a yeast metabolizing sugars will create heat.
Yeah,
and
at that small of a batch, it's not going to create so much heat that it's going to ruin your beer either.
Probably, if you're paying attention and following good protocol, you're gonna be just fine. Yeah, it's just things are a little bit easier at that scale to control for temperature. Light is still the enemy of your beer. Even at 1 gallon, you will just have 1 gallon of light struck. That funky, weird taste of Corona that goes away so well with a lime.
Little skunky.
That is what light struck hops taste like. Yeah. They don't like UV. They turn into skunky beer.
And that's appropriate in some beers.
I don't think so. I think it's a function of certain beers in green glass and beers in clear glass are skunky.
Yeah.
It's a function of the glassware. I would love to get Heineken off of the line. Like
have you ever had Heineken from a keg?
No.
It's completely different from the bottle.
Probably better.
It's delicious.
Probably better because it's not light
stuff.
It has
that malty, that very low malty flavor rather than that high skunky flavor. And then you really can't tell the hop profile too much, but you definitely taste the malt bill from it when it's not as skunky as it is.
I found something out doing a little research for the show, and it kind of it's going to be a little bit more of a concern for 1 gallon guys. Wherever you're stashing this, because it's only 1 gallon, it may be more prone to vibrational effects. Like if you live on a big street and your whole apartment building shakes when the train goes by or a semi truck goes by, vibration can actually affect beer stability and increase aldehyde production. Aldehydes, you remember, are some of the compounds that yeast create during the first 24 hours.
So what does that do?
Aldehydes.
The settling material in the bottom. There's always something settling, usually disturbs that
Yeah.
and lets those flavors in.
Some of those stability, I couldn't pin down exactly in the time allotted I had. I couldn't pin down what the stability one was exactly, but the increase in aldehyde production. Now aldehydes, they taste like funky green apple, like weird shitty Jolly Rancher.
Acetaldehyde.
Yeah, not great. Too much of that. That's the stuff that gives you
It's
hangovers
actually
too.
Well, it's actually a highlight in some beers. It's
Then
acceptable.
they're just not beers I
acceptable.
drink,
Okay, it's
man.
acceptable in some beers.
I don't know about
It
that.
is.
I don't agree with that. But I don't really
no,
like
there
those.
is. There is.
Yeah, no,
That's for real.
I just said I don't agree with it. I don't think it's appropriate. Is what
You
I
don't
mean.
like it at
I don't
all.
like it. I don't like it. I don't want it in my beer.
I don't like green apple beer. I might as well make a sizer.
Yeah.
For that matter, huh?
So small batch brewing.
Another beer. Hear that?
Brewing in the very good. Brewing in the kitchen. Back in the kitchen again with our ventilation can be a thing. We are evaporating a gallon worth of water into the atmosphere during the course of the boil.
We're making clouds.
Yeah.
Ben.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
If you have
Maybe
a
that's what
really,
cloudburst
if you
brewing
had-
is about,
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember I had some pretty poorly ventilated apartment buildings in my youth.
Now
or
it's a
dorm-
sauna.
Like dorm.
It's
you ever try to?
It's
you
a
know,
brew day sauna.
You know why they don't like you cooking in the dorm room? Because there's absolutely no ventilation in those
Right.
fuckers. That's why my
Everybody
roommate smells
everybody
like
gets the
everybody smells like feet.
The
And,
kimchi.
yeah, terrible.
or the fish.
But you sneak in a hot plate anyways, don't you? You got to watch out what you're cooking because you're gonna without that ventilation in there, you're gonna have a kind of a swampy room.
So be careful.
Yeah.
Brew it in your dorm, would you?
Like open a window. Just open the window.
And make sure you're 20.
Yeah. Or not.
That was it.
The odor becomes a thing too. When the during fermentation, you can get some
The gas, off gas.
Yeah, sulfur yeast makes sulfur dioxide.
Yeah, it smells like farts
as
sometimes.
an anti-competitive feature for other yeast and bacteria. A little bit of sulfur dioxide has that eggy kind of farty kind of smell, and I get that call at the shop, from new brewers all the time. I was like, oh my god, it smelled like farts. So I pitched it. I'm like, man, I wish you called me 2 seconds before you did that because I'd have told you it's okay.
It's natural.
And it'll go away. What do you mean it'll go away? It's like, well, it went away because you threw it away, but it'll go away.
But
on
it'd
its
go
own.
away on its own if you let it.
But if you're stuffing it under your bed and you are under 21 and you're trying not to get caught, you might want to consider something else.
Right, because it's going to smell.
I know a guy who was making cider. He really hated the sulfur smell in his house, so he rigged up all the airlocks, put hoses on all the airlocks, and shoved them through a homemade carbon block filter.
Yeah.
And you can still breathe through the filter housing, and the carbon block
Captured all the
captures
smells.
the stink.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, you're kind of a sick, twisted genius there. But
How close was he to a window?
apparently, well, it's wintertime too, so like fall harvest of apples, and trying to keep his cider production up all winter long. 'Cause
Yeah.
Some of his summer when you just open the window, and that's
Right.
fine. But it got cold, and he didn't want to do that, so he built a carbon block filter for his airlocks
great.
to go through, and I thought it was actually pretty cool.
Genius.
Pretty cool. If you kids let's talk about kids and brewing this small batch. Boy, it looks
Kids
cool.
and brewing.
Yeah, sitting that fermenter on the counter where your kids can see
Yep.
it and fuck with it. They want you know what they want to do? They want to stick their finger in it, don't they? I don't care if they. I don't care if my kids.
What
drink
is
my
this,
beer.
Dad?
Yeah, what is that? Poke.
Ouch. Oh,
Yeah.
kid, don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Oh, or how about young kids coming up to the kegerator and just pulling the tap? What is this,
boy.
Dad?
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Look at the cast. It's so pretty. The bubbles coming out. Let's just.
No, I had
Dad, can you fill that up? Your sprinkler, your garage sprinkler is
Like-
empty.
my kids are in their late 20s.
Yeah, they know what to do with that. don't
Yeah,
they?
and I brewed
Weasel
through their teenage years, and hardly ever did they ever go down and, I didn't ever say nothing. I never told them, you do not get in my beer. You can never have a sip. I never told them that. And you know what? They hardly ever did. But I found out that Noah would tell me once in a while. He'd be like, Dad, I went down there and tried some of those beers. It was great. It was good. No wonder I like beer now.
I remember when my oldest daughter, got caught drinking. She was texting to a group chat that her friend's mom was on because it was like for the birthday party group chat.
No.
And they were talking about getting Coors and getting wasted. So she got busted, and I told her, like, I grounded her so fucking bad, and not for drinking beer, because she was drinking Coors, and I fucking taught her better.
Yeah.
God damn, making me look bad.
Damn.
I got to answer to these
girl.
people, like.
Right.
I'm known in the 5 boroughs, man.
Your daughter was drinking Coors?
Coors.
I didn't even
Yeah.
from around these parts.
It's a very Cedar Willy thing. All right, when we get back, we're going to take a little break. We're going to talk about a little bit of math, conversion, scaling, adapting recipes right after the break.
Agent M, this doesn't add up. How does something as simple as yeast turn into beer? It's not simple, Agent X. It's yeast at work, transforming sugars into something extraordinary. Northwest Brewer Supply teaches brewers how to harness the power of fermentation. So they're training people to control it? Exactly. They're real agents of change, one brew at a time.
Beer isn't magic, it's mastery. Learn the secret at Northwest Brewer Supply. Visit nwbrewers.com.
Welcome back. Let's do a little math for hopheads. I mean,
Ooh, I love math.
We're gonna do some scaling and adapting our recipes here.
All right.
So
You
how
never
to
thought you would
shrink-
do algebra,
How to
did you?
shrink your favorites without losing the soul of your beer? Maybe you're a 5-gallon brewer and you just want to scale things down for whatever reason that we've talked about today.
Right.
So what do? Part of it's really simple. We're going to take a fifth of the ingredients. Just divide everything by 5 is a pretty good
20%.
Yeah, it's a pretty good ballpark.
Right.
You
You're gonna take your 8. You're gonna take your 8 pounds of DME and times it by 20%.
yeah, times by 20% or divide by 5, whatever you think is easier. Do
Whichever
that.
math
Do that.
works for you.
Do that. It's a fifth of the ingredients or 20% of the ingredients, but it's 100% of the effort, right? We still have a hour-long mash for all grain. We still have an hour-long boil, whether you're doing
Right.
all grain or extract.
Still the same process.
fermentation timeline looks exactly the same. Yeast are still going to take an amount of time to do
Right.
that.
Your yeast management is going to be the same. You're going to pitch a little bit less, though.
Yeah, and
20%.
We're going to talk about yeast here in a second.
Okay.
But first off, when you do the math, you multiply that. Maybe you got 8 1/4, and you come up with now you got decimal points or some other funky weird way. What is a fella to do? What's a brewer to do? Well, you know what I do? I say, hang it all. I'm nice to myself. I round it up. I round it up to the nearest pound, and if I get a little,
A little extra
if
alcohol
I get a
out of
little
it?
extra booze, I
A
mean,
little-
I'm not gonna.
A little extra hop
Does
bitterness?
anybody out there? Does anybody out there listening really care about
What if
extra
I'm-
1/4% of
What if I'm really
ABV?
trying to develop a new recipe, and I'm really trying to do it by the gallon? Then I can be precise,
Yeah,
right?
and
I
that's where
can
your-
be more precise.
That's where your grams, I would say switch to metric
Yeah.
weights because the math is a little bit easier, whole amounts, and not having to do fractional math because you hate because metric's better.
Google-
Metric's better, man.
Google
Google's
will
good
do
too.
your
Google's good,
conversion,
but
yeah.
to weigh it out,
Just
and do
type
that,
in CONV,
yeah.
MM to IN,
It
and
it depends on the
bam.
resolution of your scale.
Yeah.
A lot of inexpensive digital scales may only go to a tenth of,
But it's fine.
Or excuse
So,
me,
I mean,
a
the
hundredth of an
basics.
ounce.
Basics
And-
is if we're gonna
yeah.
make a small batch that really, for our taste.
Yeah.
The ballpark's gonna work. If you're gonna make if you're really dialing this in, you can hit your targets by your certain percentages.
There are scaling issues to be concerned with, from 1 gallon, 5 gallon, and up to 15 gallon
Yeah.
sizes. There's gonna
That
be like
does,
50
yeah.
gallons.
That's a
there's
big. That's a
never-
big step.
None of them are going to be like exactly linear progressions.
No,
I
it
mean,
won't.
utilization factor on a big system. Hop utilization goes up on a big system. We may be, I believe, if memory serves, it goes up. A little bit better utilization on a bigger system.
Yeah.
And full volume boils.
I
versus
believe that
small-
too. Yeah.
So even if we're
So it's a little different for that.
even if we're testing a recipe, does this recipe is it ballpark good? Does it taste like beer? It's not out of balance. Are we going to get the IBU range that we can now work with to nail on the 5 gallon? We'll have to do some more experimentation to refine it at 5 gallons. And if we're trying to then scale that 5 gallons into a 50 gallon batch, that's another
deal.
That's a different animal as well. So there's always a little wrinkle in those things, but we can still make excellent beer,
Right.
and have a good goal for any of those future scaling that we want to do. Adjusting your SRM, which SRM, that just means standard reference methods. Is how we evaluate the color of beer. It's using a gel, see-through gel screen against a white background at the right level of illumination, and that's what the standard reference method really means.
Standard reference
method. It is a lab protocol for evaluating for comparing color way.
Comparing Lovabond.
So you might do some color balancing. Smaller volume boils, can have a little darker. As amino acids combined with sugars, we can get a little extra Maillard reaction in some of those smaller volumes. So that might be something we have to worry about. But I wouldn't worry too much. I'm just making beer.
Right.
Right.
And we're only making a 1 gallon batch.
Sometimes so doing some of the math, sometimes your favorite little brewing calculator like Beersmith, Brewer's Friend, Brewfather, there's a host of them. They have like automatic scaling options. I use Brewer's Friend. They're not a sponsor of this show. Been using for years. They do have a free version. Will allow you to make 3 and store 3 recipes pretty easily. If you need to store a third one, you have to print off an old one and then store it analog. That works too.
I suggest writing it down.
Yeah.
Print it out, write it down.
Do all of the things. Keep a physical record as well as a digital record of your recipes.
I like that.
Because if things, hardware crashes out, computers die, servers die, things happen. I had Beersmith crash when and
then all your recipes are gone.
They were gone. They were not stored in the cloud. They were all gone.
Write it down.
Bummer.
Store it in a notebook.
Do a little
talk
about a little bit of hop math. I know on the show we have
kind of talked about that. The utilization goes up.
Is a lie, but maybe you should want to know what IBU really stands for. IBU is 1 part per million of isomerized. It's isohumulone in 1 liter of water or liquid, and that is a laboratory measurement. So that's a thing. IBUs, they're not really a lie. It's just very lab specific. What gets to where we get wrinkly is all of the IBU calculations attempt to represent the lab condition or the lab result.
The perfect model.
Right? We try to give it inputs to get to what the lab would say if we had the output tested. And there are multiple ways to calculate that. There's Ranger, Tinsith, and another one. And if you and your favorite calculator might give you all 3, and they will all come up with a different number because none of them have really gotten it right. Right? We are attempting to approximate those things. So back to our 1 gallon batch, we're going to do some more approximation. We are going to, this is a little bit of the art side of brewing. We are going to taste and evaluate, and brew it, drink it, evaluate. Does it need more or less bitterness? Brew it again.
Do it again.
Doesn't that sound fun? I mean, that's some fun science for me. I don't know if that's yeast, we mentioned it a second ago. We promised we'd talk about it. Yeast management for small batch brewing. I really dig on dry yeast for this, exclusively for my small batches. It's a little more economical because I'm only making the sachet of yeast is.
Am I going to use like
5 gallons.
half of it?
You don't have to be that precise. Yeah, the upper end threshold of yeast. Yeah,
just shake it in.
At least you're going to use at least a fifth of it.
Right.
If it's a bigger batch, you might use 2/5 of it, right? Because now you've doubled your cell count. We don't have to be that precise. The upper end
it's
threshold.
not going to hurt it if I overdo a little bit.
Yeah, the over end.
Because we're talking such small amounts.
Yeah. The upper threshold for yeast in a beer is economically avoidable. And I say that all the time, and people look at me funny, but here it is. It means you would never accidentally have that many open packs of yeast near an open fermenter. You just wouldn't do it because it would cost too much. So you wouldn't carry around 20 packs of friggin' open packs of dry yeast or liquid yeast around an open fermenter. Why? You would never need that kind of thing. So you don't have to worry about if you used a whole pack of yeast in 1 gallon. Your beer's fine.
It's going to be
It doesn't
okay.
care. It doesn't
All right,
care.
so
Yeah, yeah.
relax, everybody.
Liquid yeast.
Drink a homebrew.
Liquid yeast is going to be a little more less cost effective for 1 gallon
Right.
of batches. It doesn't store fantastically. You can. That being said,
You
there are
probably
a
don't
whole
want to
lot of
make
product.
you probably don't want to make a pack that has all those cells for the 5 gallons
Right.
and dump them in there because it's just gonna devour everything so quick.
I mean, that being said, there are ways to divide, take your yeast collection and divide it into small samples that can be propagated into larger samples later. That requires a whole different lab setup and new protocols. And if you're just getting started or making 1 gallon batches, that's probably not what you're intuitive
right.
for anyways.
I'm not gonna have that kind of
I
equipment
mean,
if I'm
like,
making
if
that
you
small
are
batch.
a PhD biochemist, like, cool, man. I'll be your buddy. I'll be your test subject. It's fine.
I'll be a huckleberry.
Recipe sources. Let's talk about that. I say find your favorite
Brewer's friend.
5 gallon recipes.
At Northwest Brewer Supply.
Northwest Brewers. We got them. I'm actually working on converting my kits into 1 gallon alternatives.
There you go.
It's a little bit interesting.
You'll be able to do it on the fly.
Yeah. There's some, when we get into like 0.13, if it's got 5 different flavors of hops and it's each using 0.13 ounces of hops per addition, that looks a little weird. So I'm starting to make little better, maybe it's not the Sacred Cow, but it's another IPA version,
Right.
just as in a 1 gallon that maybe only uses 2 hops and uses them throughout the boil and into dry hopping.
And now when you're developing them into a kit,
Yeah.
you're giving them the right amount of hops that they need.
Right. Instead of having
Ins-
to like
right.
have a bunch of leftovers.
Right, you're going to have this left. Now I have to store it in my fridge.
and oxygen,
my freezer.
and
Yeah.
hops, and
It's going to go worse,
Yeah.
bad. But okay,
So that's kinda
I
good.
got it.
But I'll share with you like the Sacred Cow. I scaled that down, and I'm actually gonna try to brew it
Good.
and bring it on the show.
I'm
I'll
looking
put
forward
that
to
on.
that.
I'll put on in the show notes today.
I'll brew. I'll look forward to that.
I do have the Sacred Cow. It just I got warmed up. I brought the Sacred Cow on Kveikjes. Remember the Kveik episode? Well,
Yep,
I,
yep.
I brewed one of them.
Oh,
and
that
it's-
was the Sacred
It's
Cow.
pretty fucking tasty. But I took it to the camp out
Oh,
last
okay.
weekend, and it had to cool back off. So Wednesday I'll have some more of that.
Okay,
one.
good.
Yeah, I'll make
Good,
sure
good,
we bring
good.
some. So we're gonna wrap this 1 gallon episode up. We got 1 gallon of beer, infinite possibilities.
Yes.
So I encourage you, if you're in
Experiment.
a small if you're in a small environment or shared spaces or apartment or vacation, summer home, and you still want to make beer, do it. Don't be afraid. There's a way, and it doesn't cost a ton of money. Just do it. So if you're out there, I encourage you to try it out at least one time. Find an X batch, maybe something you wouldn't normally brew. And,
Right.
So there's always those recipes like, or that style of beer. Like, well, that sounds interesting, but I don't know if I'd like 5 gallons of it.
Right. How
Perfect
about
beer
how
for a
about I
1 gallon
brew a
experiment.
bottle of like some strong Belgian strong with some
Because
some
I'd
other
want
additions.
5 gallons of those. Those are delicious. but
But then
you've never
you-
had it. How would
Right.
you know?
You just make it
Yeah.
so you can store it in your bottle, and then you have 4 beers for the winter.
do that. Do that.
You know.
So keep an eye out. NWBrewers.com. I will be putting some 1 gallon options up on the.
If you
site
do,
really
so,
soon.
if you do make some, tag us. Tag us on the social medias.
Yeah.
Do it.
Next week, we might talk about some fermentation fails. We're working on how to unfuck your beer episodes, and maybe we'll have that, or maybe we'll get a little more creative with some other fun ingredients. But until next time, keep it small, keep it crafty, and remember, some of the best ideas come in tiny packages.
So just brew beer.
Brew some more beer. Brew more beer.
Always.
Subliminal. Brew more beer. Brew
More beer. Brew more beer. Brew more
All right.
beer.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for joining us.
listening on
Beer on
this show. This
the-
one. This
this
one. This
one.
is the show.
It's called the
The Beer
Craft. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye, guys.
You guys rule. You guys fucking really rule. Thanks for listening.
Awesome.
Later.
See you.